Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 3 of the Devil's Own podcast. Coming thick and fast at the moment. As ever, joined by Asa, chief reporter for us this evening. Evening, Asa, how are you?
Good evening, everyone. I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yes, good, thanks. Jack's back. Hi, Jack. Welcome back. Are you alright today?
Hi, thank you for having me back. How are you all today?
We're good. Looking forward to getting into it. And Josh returns. Hi, Josh. Welcome back. How are you?
Yeah. Hi, mate. I'm good. It's good to be back on. How are you? How are you?
Good. Good stuff. Yeah, we're good. Thank you. Okay, so as ever, some housekeeping to take care of. The pod today is sponsored again by Mansfield Media. Some of you may know Grant taking pictures around the ground. He helps us out with imagery and some video, so we're ever grateful for that. So a massive thanks to Mansfield Media. Um, Next thing before we get too deep into everything else is to keep the pod going over the summer. We're going to run a series of support stories podcasts. We want to hear from loads of different people about why they support Crawley, their highs, lows, etc. So if you fancy it, if you want to get involved, there is a sign up button on the website, thedevilzone.uk. And then we can hopefully record a series of these and keep them coming out over the summer, along with discussing, hopefully, transfers and things as they happen along the way. Right, let's get into it. Bristol Rovers away. Who wants to go with that one?
Go on, our first comments on it.
Go on.
Look, I think a lot of people said, we turned up for the last maybe 20 minutes of the match. I think, I agree with that. I think we did just turn up for the last 20 minutes. I think first half performance, very similar. It was a bit of a carbon copy to Grimsby, in my opinion. I thought first half we were very poor. We seemed to come into it in the second half, but again, that's too little too late. I think when we do look on top, I think we look really good, but it's just being able to find that consistency throughout the whole 90 minutes. I think you see Louis Watson come on and Dion Pereira came on in the first half because of Kellen's injury, and those two for me have to be starting. We had no movement in the first half. I thought it was up top. We had nothing to offer. But second half there was a bit more movement and a bit more energy.
Okay, Jack, thoughts?
For me, it kind of felt like a bit of what I said about the Grimsby game. It was like first 10 minutes we were the better side, and then once again it's kind of like we've hit a switch because then they score two goals in very quick succession. We kind of then just a moment of when are we going to get back into this game? And yet again, for me, we score a goal in the 80th minute, which is then like we have a chance. Once again, it's that moment of unfortune where they get a good counter attack on the ball and just finish the game off for us.
Yeah, we'll get into the goals a bit in a second. But Josh, I mean, look, you know I would have to agree with obviously what Asa and Jack are saying. It feels like deja vu.
Mm.
How do you feel much the same about it?
Yeah, I'd agree. I thought it was very similar to the Grimsby game, but I just thought that there was something there we could have got something, but it was just two moments in the first half that just decided the game really. Like
Mm.
like that first 10 minutes, we had chances, but we just weren't really creating, and then it was so poor goals to concede. Um, like one went straight
Yeah,
through
I mean,
Chapman's
from
legs, and the
from
second one
my
was just a
perspective,
ball over the top, wasn't it? Yeah.
yeah, I mean, look. First off, I need to start with an apology because I was quite critical of Jay in the last podcast, saying that I felt it was a silly thing to do to get sent off and kind of leave us in the lurch. Obviously, I watched it back afterwards. I said on the pod that I hadn't. I watched it back. I felt it was a very harsh red. So I was pleased that it got overturned. And then I felt there was 2 individual errors for the first 2 goals. Just from my perspective, I thought Jay let the guy go for the first, and then the second, I'm not quite sure what Lewis Richards was trying to do to sort of defend that. But I wasn't there, so obviously I was watching it on the TV. But it felt uncharacteristic for Jay to let someone run off him like that, and allow him the space. And then, like I say, the ball across, Lewis Richards sort of jumped and missed it, and it was all a bit messy. And then, as Jack said, in the space of a couple of minutes, it all starts to become really hard work, doesn't it? And then, obviously, they go down to 10. Louis Watson's goal, hopefully that gives him a bit of confidence to kind of really pick up his game and hopefully get back to where he was last year. I know, AC, you're a big fan. I was last year. I don't think he's necessarily hit those heights this year, which is strange. He certainly, I think, Jack, you and I spoke about him before and said that, he looked a good player in League One. So we were sort of expecting him to do more in League Two than he has. But it was, it was a good goal. And then, I guess, we were pushing for the equaliser. They break away, and you'd have to say great finish, right? For their third goal. But I suppose what I want to dig into a little bit more around it, I don't want to sit here and kind of pick apart too much the performance, because I think it is, for the most part, it's a lot of the same of what we've seen this season, and that is we turn up for parts of games, and I think even Scott had said that on occasion. It was the application over 90 minutes that was costing us, and it's definitely felt a bit like that. I suppose the question I wanted to put to you guys tonight was, obviously, Colin got off to a great start, a good 6 points. They were not, by any stretch, phenomenal performances. They were very good wins and a good 6 points against teams arguably we should pick up 6 points against. But the performance was not markedly improved from what we'd watched under Scott. So are we seeing the same thing starting to play out? I suppose, impossible question, could Scott have got those 6 points that Colin picked up in his first 2 games? Because it doesn't feel like a massive amount has changed. So, Asa, to you first, do you still think Colin's the right man? Do you feel like maybe those 2 wins maybe masked a little bit the start? Sort of, how do you feel about it? Because I'm starting to feel a bit nervy again.
Look, I think, you get that cliche of the new manager bounce, and I think we had that. I think in terms of across the 4 matches he's been in charge of, none of the performances have been great. I think in the 2 matches, we got what we needed. And obviously we're not too fussed about performances right now. We're fussed about the results. But in the way of the performances, no, I don't think much has changed. I think I hoped that the 2 wins would have given the side a bit more belief to go and play a certain way and give them a bit more confidence. But it doesn't look like we're playing with any more confidence than we were in those first 2 matches. I know he still hasn't had lots of time to play, to train and instill tactics and whatnot. But to answer your question, I don't think a lot has changed.
Okay. So, do you think he's still the right man? Do you believe?
Do I think he's still the right man? Yeah, I think based on if we're just seeing it out to the end of the season, I think he is. But whether that continues into next season, those are loads of questions we have to ask ourselves in the summer. But right now, to see us through, I think yes.
Okay. Jack, I suppose same to you. I mean, do you feel it's I take your point, Asa, and I completely agree. It's less about the performance and more about the result. I do get that, but at the same time, sometimes those two things go hand in hand, right? You have to perform better. I guess, Jack, how do you feel we are at the moment? I struggle to identify what we are sometimes. Are we direct? Are we a pressing team? Are we a counter-attacking team? How do you sort of feel about, and I don't want to be too harsh on Colin because he's got a 50% win rate at the moment. I preferred it when he had a 100% win rate, that's for sure. Do you sort of still feel that the tactics are pretty similar, or are you noticing any subtle changes along the way?
When he first came in, obviously this being his first managerial job, I'm guessing a lot of the fans were shocked to think we didn't hire someone who's actually had like experience with EFL football. But he comes in, he gets us our first home win in 11 matches and our first away win in 14 matches. So take away, he's done a win and so many draws and losses. I feel like this is something that was different under Scott because it was just maybe just we couldn't get that over the line of a draw. He's coming at us 100% win rate. He's dipped in the last home game and on Saturday, but take nothing from him. He still somehow finds a way to get this team to somehow have an inspiration because they know that they want this club to stay up. They want everything on this fight. The tactics, sometimes when I look at it and you see them doing like try to keep the ball and like go for a counter attack, it's like it's an adaptive system where it's like if chucking the ball to the striker won't work, do passing left, right, centre, try and get an attack going forward.
Okay, fair enough. Josh, I mean, are you seeing signs that give you encouragement? Because I said in the sort of intro to this section, I'm definitely starting to feel a bit nervy again.
Yeah, yeah. I'm like, from my point of view, we've played two crap sides and two good sides, and we're beating the crap sides. And if that makes sense, really. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, in the tactic point of view, I do feel like it has changed because he has changed the formation. The football might not be better, but it looks a bit more attackingly than it did. You know what I mean? And I see what your point about being nervous because time is running out, but I feel like he still has brought more belief than Scott did. Because with Scott, we were just dripping. It felt like we were never going to win. And he's had 4 games and he's won 2 of them, but he hasn't got all the time in the world. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's a tough one to call. It is a tough one to call.
So to that point, right, and I know Asa, you and I have had some conversations around the team, and we'll touch on some of the players in a second. So going back to what Josh has just said about tactics, he's made some subtle changes. So you obviously, one of those has been Adiemo at right back, Kurdi sitting just behind Adiemo. Is that by design, or is he being forced into those decisions because of the injuries and the players that are available for selection?
I think he came in intending to play a back four, and I think the way it's been set up was the way he wanted to set it up. In terms of the personnel in those areas, maybe not necessarily the ones that he expected, as he alluded to with Addy. He thought Addy at right back, it's not his maybe conventional position, but he thought he could do a job there for us whilst Kellen was out injured. We see Kellen come back on Saturday. Kellen slots into that right back, and he pushes up higher. So I think it is the intended formation to go with, but personnel wise, yeah, maybe he's been forced into putting players where they're not maybe even played this season.
Okay. So then, to that end, I suppose the Football Manager, Championship Manager, 30 years experience in that area, I start dissecting things a little bit, right? And there's a big challenge for me is how do you sort of make it better, right? And I quantify that by saying we all love the players that we've got, and I think, as a football club, Crawley Town attracts a certain type of player, and the fans, maybe because we're so close to the pitch, we can sort of interact with these guys. We sort of really do have quite a good relationship with the players. So sometimes that can mask kind of some of the performance and those sort of things. I mean, I don't know. Given what's available to us at the moment, I look at the players that played on Saturday. I don't know how you make that better from a personnel perspective. Yes, he can go and he can do some training and he can do all of those things. But I also look at it and I go, right, okay, which of those 11 players would I be happy to leave the football club? And honestly, I would struggle to say goodbye to any of them because I have a love for all of them. But at the same time, they're not playing well enough or good enough to warrant being starting in a League Two side at the moment. So, do you feel like there's a massive overhaul of the squad needed in the summer, given that we've effectively just massively overhauled the squad in January? I mean, obviously, you would look at it on paper and you would assume, come the end of the season, Chapman's not coming back next year, Copley won't be back next year, Toby Adiemo won't be back next year, right? So then we're looking at that's three pretty big holes you've got to fill over the summer. Do you feel there's anyone on our kind of injury list at the moment that can fill the void of those players? See, you've all gone quiet. So we're definitely going to need a new number one, right?
Yeah, I think going back to your point, do we need a big overhaul in the summer? I think obviously we do have quite a few loan signings. I think, in my opinion, I think we've got one of the biggest squads in League Two. I think we've got a squad that's all over the place. There's players that have disappeared and we don't know where they're gone. I think, bearing in mind we've got a new manager come in as well, he's going to want to have players that are suited to what he wants. Obviously, there's a lot of players in there that are Scott Lindsay players, a few Rob Elliott players. I think we are going to see a big overhaul. But I think there's a lot of players in there who their contracts running out at the end of the season as well. So there's a lot to think about.
Absolutely. I mean, look, to that end, obviously, life's always going to be difficult given the areas that we operate in. I mean, to go back to what you were just saying, I mean, I saw something. How accurate it is, I don't know. Apparently, we've got the fifth biggest wage bill in League Two, which on another side of the coin, I've seen that we've got the second lowest budget in League Two, so that's slightly concerning. I mean, obviously, look, Ryan Loft is one example of a lone player that we've brought in and has disappeared off the face of the earth. What do you think it is in particular about Darcy and Lolos that Colin doesn't see a player in? Because they've not even been in the squad. Well, Darcy certainly hasn't been in the squad the last two games.
No, but if you look at it at this point, we bring the point up that he's a new manager. He's probably wants to see anyone in our squad that we currently have available, like who haven't played in like so many months. So for example, someone like Louis Watson, who was I thought started the season really well, then gets benched out of nowhere, then gets out of the squad for no reason. And it was kind of the same with Farazad. I mean, he came in and then he got dropped off, and I've not seen him since then. Like, and then you had Darcy and Nolos who played week in, week out for Scott, and then Colin Kazim Richards comes in, and it's then like, hang on, we could try and rotate this squad if people haven't had much of the opportunities. 'Cause at the same time, you don't know what happens in trainings. There could be like injuries where you don't want to risk the players, but like it gives you time to like if you don't want to risk people getting injured, you try and rotate the squad with players you know haven't played in a very long time.
Yeah, I mean, what about? I mean, the one that I find very strange is Dion Pereira. I think if you dig into the stats,
Hmm.
he is one of the top chance creators in League Two. I would guess by minute, right? So, obviously he's not playing 90 minutes every week. He was out of the team for a while, but certainly, I think chances created per minute on the pitch, he's right up there. And we're not seeing him necessarily utilised every week. And at the same time, whether it be under Scott, whether it was under Colin, we've seen him tried in the number 10 role. I don't particularly think that's his position. I think he's better off coming off the right, and I think we saw it in the second half, didn't we? Or certainly when Adiemo dropped back to right back in the game, and Dion's in front of him. Those two seem to be building an understanding, don't they? But yeah, like I say, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I think I mean, I suppose if I put you all on the spot, one word answer. Josh, do you think the signings in the January transfer window have worked out? As a whole, right? If you just look at the 13 players that have come in, would you say it was a good window or not at this stage?
What would you say on an owner basis or on a managerial basis
On a fan
overall?
basis, right? So these overall, so these
All right.
13 players we brought in to get us out of trouble.
um, I'd say no, not at all. I'd say by Chapman, no, not at all. I don't think anyone's by Chapman has really done enough. But
I would,
on
I
that
would, I
perspective,
would
I'd say no.
counter that with Kellen Gordon.
I
Okay, I'd counter that with
Oh
Kellen
yeah,
Gordon.
Kellen Gordon as well. Yeah, but I don't think you
Jack,
can blame Raf.
I
no, no,
mean,
no.
I have to say the same and say no, because like we brought Jacob Chapman on loan, who is praised very highly. We did that, and then we bring back Kellen Gordon on a permanent, and it feels like them two have kind of been the cement of our January transfer players that show it on a pitch.
Hmm.
Yep. Asa.
Look, I think maybe the factor swaying it, well, one of the factors is how many players we brought in. And if you look at the amount of players we brought in, the amount of players that have, out of that 13, that have gone on and sort of been used regularly in the side and have made a big impact for us, there's very few players, like ones we've mentioned Chapman, Kellen Gordon, etc., but there's also a lot of players that have come in and haven't hit the heights. So then that counterbalances it. But if a straight answer, I'd say no.
Okay. So look, I mean, this is saying we will revisit each week, right? It could change between now and the end of the season. I mean, from my perspective, I completely agree. I think, look, Chapman's been outstanding. I said before, I worked it out. I said I would. I reckon Chapman's won us 10 points since he came in. I think Kellen brings a kind of Jay Williams-ness, like a desire, a passion to really sort of move things forwards. Um, in flashes, Toby Adeyema's looked really, really good. And then he can also be completely non-existent in games at times. I think Louis Copley looks good, and I think had he not got injured and maybe had played a bit more, and I'm with you, Jack. I thought Ferrazage looked really good when he came in, and then he's sort of gone off as well. So look, everything's variable, right? These things will always change based on performance, based on result, etc. I mean, I'm just looking at FOTMob, and the only two players that scored over 7 in their ratings on Saturday was Adi Adiemo got 7.1 and Louis Copley got 8.2 and was awarded man of the match from them, even over the Bristol Rovers players. I mean, I really like Copley. So I guess we move on. Shrewsbury 3:00 on Saturday. So they are currently 18th in the league. They're 3 places above us, but 10 places above us. 10 points above us. Their last 5 lost 3, won 2, including a win in their last game. Let me pull up the team sheet, because this is always a fun game with Crawley this season, to see who played for us in the reverse fixture, because chances are not many of them will still be around. And those that are
Shrewsbury
playing,
have Matthew Cox.
the goalie.
But yeah, they did
Yeah,
actually.
Matthew Cox is at Shrewsbury.
Yeah. So they beat
I think
us
he, I think he
1
played 2 games.
nil. He looked good before he
Yeah.
got injured, to be fair.
Got
So
injured, I think.
yeah, he did, and then we brought in the guy whose name I can never remember from Portsmouth, and he looked pretty good too back in the last.
Toby
Yeah,
Collier. To-
That's
Toby
it.
Collier.
Yeah,
He's now at St Johnston.
yes,
Yeah, he's now at St
yes,
Johnston in
that's it.
Scotland.
Right, so we played Shrewsbury away on the 18th of October. We lost 1-0. They scored in the 84th minute, after Harry McCurdy got himself sent off. I'm guessing Matthew Cox must have moved there in January, because he wasn't in the team that day. So, wow. I mean, I will read out our team sheet, and this just maybe shows where we've come from, I guess. So Wallacott was in goal. We had a back 3 of Barker, Conroy and Flint. Wing backs were Pereira and Forster. And we started Holohan and Anderson in the middle. And then we had McCurdy in a 10 behind Kabi Shimanga and Ryan Loft. Probably one of the very few games Kabi actually started for us, to be fair. And then we made some changes throughout the game. We brought on Bajrami, Louis Watson. Oh, and Danny Cashman actually appeared in that game. And Jack Rolls. We left Kyle Scott and Reece Brown on the bench. So, obviously, you would say of that team that day, Forster, McCurdy, Barker and Pereira are maybe in with a shot of starting, maybe Anderson, but given Copley played pretty well. I mean, What do you want to see on Saturday, Jack? What's I know you want to see a win. Let's get that one over
Obvi-
with.
Obviously, every Crawley fan prays for a win.
But what do you want to? Right. So before we go into that game and we win, what is it you really want to see? Do you want to see desire? Do you want to see us control the game? Do you just want to see us create 100 chances? Like I suppose what signs of encouragement are you looking for as a fan? We
Look,
pay your money.
when we yeah, when we were in the playoffs all those many moons ago, we showed conviction that all these players wanted something. They wanted it. That's what I want to see on Saturday. That's what you kind of want. You want to see the conviction. You want to see these players push their hardest for this win.
Okay. So Josh, I guess same to you. We're at a point now. What have we got? We've got 2 home games, 2 away games left, right? What do you want to see from these guys between now and the end of the season, regardless of result, regardless of whether we stay up or we go down, or we win or we lose? What is it you want to see from them?
I just want to see fight. You know what I mean? I think there's been too many players, especially this season, just that don't look like they give a crap really. And yeah, even if we do go up, go down, even or stay up, um, at least like I want to see everything left out there. You know what I mean? And even like that can result in 3 points, or it could not. You just want to see 100%. Yeah.
Okay. Asa, sort of same to you, I guess. Is it the same as what Josh and Jack are saying? Is it just that fight, that desire, that want that you want to see, or do you want to see us go out there and try and control games and really sort of start to build something for next season at this stage, or is it literally just get done what needs to be done this season?
What do I want to see? I want to see the fight from the players because and I think I think we have seen that in patches when since Collins come in. I think we see the last 20 minutes. I want to see that replicated. I want to see that last 20 minutes be implemented from minute one. I want to see us go at it. I think on a more detailed level, I want to see more direction and more plan once we enter the final third. I think a lot of the first half against Bristol, there's a lot of balls being lumped up there, or we get into Bristol's half, and then we sort of didn't know what to do with it, and either it ran through to the goalkeeper, ran out of play. I want to see a bit more direction, being able to retain the ball higher up the pitch, and sort of create a few more chances. Yeah.
Okay. And then look, I think the other thing I would say is that on occasion this season it's happened a few times with a few different players. I don't want to single anyone out. The fans will turn on that player, and that player maybe bites back, and I sort of think that's not a great place for us to be. The whole town team together thing at the moment feels a long time ago. Um, I think the players have to accept that, for the most part, a lot of them have not performed as well as they could have. Some of them have performed well in patches throughout the season, or even just patches in games, right? And the frustration that some fans show, not all fans, is justified to a degree, but it has to be voiced in the right way. And I think, I don't want to see the fans and the players arguing. I don't think that helps anyone. But at the same time, if people have taken the time out of their day or given up their Saturday to travel to Bristol and back to be served up a load of dross, really, it's one thing to get played off the park by a team that are above us in the leagues. Or I remember earlier this season, Jack and I made the trip to Boreham Wood, right, and it was we were played off the park that day by a team in a division below us, and there was a lot of animosity in the ground that day aimed at the coaching staff, and justifiably, right? It felt justifiable at the time, and I think at this stage now, it is getting a little hairy. So 12 points to play for. How many do you think we need out of that 12, Jack?
Obviously, the obvious answer is enough to keep us in League Two. But looking at our remaining fixtures where we could possibly pick up points, realistically, I would hope at least to get the 3 points. Maybe against Shrewsbury, which I'm praying on, and maybe against Accrington Stanley away. It is going to be a very tough away game, but it's possible we could draw the 3 points. And then our last game of the season is at home to Salford, where I would probably hope for a draw for that one.
Okay, so you're saying 7 points potentially you think we need.
7 points,
Josh?
I hope.
In prospects of what we need, I think we need 4 to confirm. Obviously, I'd love 12, but I just feel like I can't see Harrogate and Barrow hitting the 40 mark.
Oh, seem to have lost Josh for a minute there. So how many points do you think we need between now and the end of the season?
Well, I think you look. So we got. I mean, the two teams in the bottom two, they're now 4 points adrift. You have us, Newport,
Barrow have a
and
game in hand.
yeah. So Barrow have a game in hand. So we'll be watching that one tomorrow against Oldham.
Yep.
And then you
We're
look
all
at the
Oldham fans
teams.
tomorrow.
We've got we're Oldham fans for a couple of hours, and then you have Tranmere, Newport, and us all on 37. And I think Tranmere have one game in hand as well. I think they're playing tomorrow.
Yes, they do.
When I look at the last 3 games we have, I think we need 3, maybe 4 out of 9 points. So I think we've got 9 points to play for, haven't we? But it's 3 games we've got left, haven't we?
12.
So we got 4.
Yeah, 3.
Oh,
Sorry.
right, yeah.
No, 3. Sorry. Yes, you're right. I'm still
So
including
9.
the fact that Bristol happened. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so I think we need 3, maybe 4.
Okay. Well, I look at it. I would like 6. I think 6 just gets us. Well, I mean, Saturday was really not this Saturday. The previous Saturday was really bizarre. With Harrogate were out the bottom 3, and then out the bottom 2, they were off the bottom. And like it, there's so many permutations, and I think Crawley Town fans this season, our mantra should be everyone below us is losing, right? That I get that in so many WhatsApp groups. I see that in Facebook groups. That has been the sort of tale of our season a little bit, really, which has been a strange one. But we march on. We've got 2 games back at home. I suppose that is the beauty of starting the season away from home. Like you say, I think I would like to be in a position where certainly the Salford game, last game of the season, is a bit of a free hit. There's nothing riding on it for us. Obviously, they are chasing promotion playoffs at the moment, so we don't necessarily want to be sort of too reliant on getting something out of the last game of the season. We lived that one last year, and that was horrible. So done that one. Don't want to do that again. I'd like to be safe by the last game of the season. So Josh has left the recording, but my fun question of the day, which I know everyone has been looking forward to, takes a little bit of inspiration from Ace's fan interviews this week, but not a complete rehash of the question. So, Jack, if you had to replace grass as a playing surface for a football match, what would you replace it with?
Oh,
Anything you want.
what? So replace the grass with anything I
So
want.
instead of grass, what? Anything you want.
Pebble Beach, like a pebbles, like a rocky beach.
Yeah.
Like you got a bit of
Imagine
sand
the
and a bit
bounce
of
on the ball when.
rock. Yeah, I know.
Imagine the bounce. Chapman's going to hoik it forward. It's going towards the striker, but it's hit a pebble. It's bounced off to the right. Horrendous.
Yeah.
Jack, same question to you. What you thinking?
I don't really know if you want to replace grass with any kind of material. Obviously, I wouldn't go for the obvious ones like just the good old rock pitch. That's never going to work in any worlds. If I was to get rid of regular old grass, I'd probably go for maybe just dirt.
Just dirt. I like it.
Just can't get
Jay
grass because
Williams
dirt.
Jay Williams getting his bandages
Exactly.
ready.
Yeah, anything to help Jay Williams with tackles does us a lot of good.
See, I have thought about this. I thought about this a lot, and I think I would go for a field of stinging nettles. That, for one reason, it would cure diving.
Well, they
No
definitely
one
be
Yeah.
going like.
dive. I just think that would be quite amusing. Every time like they dive on the floor, they're going to get covered in stinging nettles. Well, lovely. Thanks, gents, for joining me. We will reconvene after the Shrewsbury game, as we so often do, come win, lose, or draw, to chew it over. Hopefully, 3 points on Saturday. For those that are interested, I'm sure Asa will be walking around with his very little microphones before the game. So feel free to come and see us and have a chat and answer some of our stupid questions. For the moment, thank you very much, gentlemen. Have a lovely rest of the week, and I will see you on Saturday.
See you on Saturday.
Thank you. See you on Saturday.